Okay, page. We're at the first page of B'chukosai. Just remember this week, gentlemen, and when they lane it in the Torah, and they're going to get to what's called the Tochacha. The Tochacha literally Tochacha means the rebuke. It's going to be the prediction of the calamities that are going to happen if the Jewish people don't cooperate. So what you're going to hear, the Baal Koreh, if you turn the next page, you're going to hear him like this. On page 710, you're going to hear him laying out. Ani Hashem Elokeichem asher tzeizetchem me'eretz Mitzrayim b'yaslehem avodim v'ashbor motosulchem v'olecheschem kol memiyos v'im lo sishu v'li v'lo sasu et kol mitzvos v'im chukalaytim basu et mitzvos. He's going to drop his voice. If he's in the know, he's going to drop his voice. He's going to lane it faster because this is the rebuke, and you want to get through. All the negative. What do you call it? Okay. So if you take a look, yesterday on Pasuk Daled we said like this. It starts with the good things, because that's what we were talking about. We're talking about when the people are good, and the what do you call it? The people are good, and then Hashem says you're going to have abundance, and you're going to have crops, and it's going to be peace, and you're going to chase your enemies, and so on and so on. So we asked the question yesterday: why is the Torah talking about reward in physical terms? Well, we know that ultimately the reward is in the world to come. There are chumashim here if anybody needs. Ultimately, the reward is in the world to come. So why is the Torah talking about reward in this world? Why is all the reward being put in material terms? So the first answer we gave yesterday was that people relate to something more tangible than something that we know is going to be there, but it's still an intangible, like the world to come. And therefore, people respond better. That's one of the answers that's given. The other answer is that there are several answers that are given. One of them is that not everybody is sophisticated enough to understand the reward of the world to come. We're talking about something, reward of the spirit. Not everybody's sophisticated enough to understand that reward. Since not everybody's sophisticated, and it's we talk about something ruchni, something spiritual, page 708. So the Torah doesn't mention that. Another approach, and these are different mefarshim who come up with different answers here, because this is a very big discussion among the mefarshim, is that when it comes to material benefits, if it rains for everybody. I mean, sometimes, if you're a Jew who's not as deserving as others, but you get carried along by the group. And so if it rains for everybody. If there are no enemies, there's no war, or there's what do you call it? There's abundance for everybody. You kind of go along for the ride, which is one of the reasons, by the way, why it's important to daven in a minyan. Because when you daven by yourself, I mean, it will oversimplify it, but when you daven by yourself, the tefillah goes up. And the malachim, the angels, take the tefillah up there. I'm just telling you what the books say. The angels take the. Well, now, when you daven by yourself, there's a closer inspection of your tefillah. The guy what I compare it to is like border control. When you come into a country and you go to border control, everybody's passport. You come in, they look over your passport. Everybody, you better be who you are, and so on and so forth. When you're part of a tour group, there's basically kind of like they give a look over, they look okay, no terrorists here, all right, go on through. And they give them a couple of things and they pass you through. When you're davening in a minyan, so they just kind of look at the whole box. There's a whole box of tefillah. So even if my tefillah wasn't the greatest, but I'm kind of with part of the group. So it's always important to be part of the group. When it comes to material blessings, if it rains for everybody. Right? You're on for it. In the world to come, you're on your own. In the world to come, you're not with anybody else. In the world to come, you have your Gan Eden, and you have your Gan Eden, I have my Gan Eden, and that guy over there, he's got Gehenna. Everybody's got their own, what do you call it, the world to come. So when the Torah is talking to a group, the Torah promises the reward, tells us over here what the reward, because we're talking to the group of Klai. I can list every individual in the history of Klai, so exactly where their station is in the world to come. That's another approach. There's another approach that the Mefarshim say, that this is to a certain extent another one of those quote-unquote proofs of the legitimacy and authenticity of Torah, and that there's a Ribbono Shalom. I'll get to one second. There's a Ribbono Shalom. Because other religions promise all sorts of good things in the afterlife. Right? Let's see you do it right here. Okay? Yeah, if you blow yourself up, you're going to have this, that, and the other in the afterlife. Yeah, I don't understand if it's so good. So why aren't the leaders blowing themselves up? That we haven't seen. They only send a bunch of unemployed teenagers to blow themselves up. Let's see you blow yourself up. If you're waiting for the 70 maidens over there in the world, why aren't you blowing yourself up? Right? So the answer is they promise all sorts of good things. The Kodesh says, watch this. It's like a guy who's talking. I remember a guy who said he was getting what's it called, visions of future events, and everybody was trying to talk to him very gently, listen, and then the Rosh Yeshiva calls him and says, "Oh yeah, you having visions? What's happening on the market tomorrow? What's happening in the stock market tomorrow? Right now, I want to know right now. No, I'm not sure. I don't want to hear that. No visions, right? If you can't tell me right now, you can't tell me. Put your money where your mouth is." Okay, put your money where your mouth. Let's hear it right now. Right? Let's see if you can demonstrate. So Coach Baruch says, "Watch this. You're good. All of a sudden, there's abundance. You're not good. There's no abundance." So that's pretty impressive. Let's see you do it, Mohammed. Let's see Mohammed do it. Let's see what you call that. Let's see the hockey player do it. Right? Yashka was a hockey player. He got nailed into the boards. So V.A. Shomrim, he was penalized for cross-checking. Yeah, but at the end of the day, let's see you do. You can't do that. You'll walk on water, do it again. Let's see you walk on water again. Don't work. You can't do it. I don't want to hear. And Coach Baruch says this is one of the proofs that there's a rebonus up. Now, proof. What do you call it? So, for example, I could, if I wanted to, I could make it colder in the room, but I'm not going to. I'm going to have you all do it. Right, but I could do it if I wanted to. Then you say, let's see you do it. Right, let's see you do it. Right now, I don't want to show off. I could boss you about, I could stretch out my. What I'm trying to say is make it colder, gentlemen. Thanks, Ron. Okay. Now, so these are now. I want to get to there's a main point that I want to get to. This is vital. Okay, Okay. We spoke about tzedakah. Okay. Why is it, I'm using tzedakah just as an example, because this is extremely important to understand, and this is very encouraging for us. You know that the Gemara says, Melach Mamon Chesed. It actually said there are two girsos. The Gemara says, Melach Mamon Choser. If you want to salt your money, what does salting your money mean? Preserve it. You want to make it like salt, so preserve it. If you want to preserve your money, decrease it. Sounds like a contradiction in terms. Melach mamon, you want to salt your money, chaser. There is a girsa that says chesed, but it's either way, give it away. Right? Which is certainly counterintuitive. Why? If I want to increase my money, the last thing I want to do is give it away. Sorry, Kai, you were going to ask a question. Oh yeah, okay. So we're still on page 708. So it says Melach Mamon Chaser. If you want to salt your money, decrease it, which it goes completely against our instincts, right? It's like the guy who goes into the post office, and the guy says he wants to send the package. So the guy puts the package on the scale. He says it's too heavy. You got to put another stamp on it. He says, yeah, if I put another stamp on it, it's going to get heavier. Right? So what does that mean? Melach Mamon Chaser. The answer is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu works, and I've given you this example before. A guy makes $100,000 a year, and he gives 10% of his money away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, you're good. I need somebody to distribute money to poor people. You're good. He gave away 10%. The next year he gets another $100,000. And this time, the guy again gives 10%. Hashem says, I like your attitude. Next year he gives $200,000. Because you're good. I can rely on you. $200,000. You know what? I'm in such a good mood. I'm going to give 20%. I'm going to go to a maximum. So he gives away $40,000. Ooh, you're really good. So I said, you're really good. I'm looking for a guy like you for a while. The next year he gives him $500,000. $500,000. He gives away $100,000. He says, you're unbelievable. You're a star. Next year he gives him $1 million. Guy said, $1 million. He's about to write out a check for $200,000. I said, boy, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You know what? I think we'll make it $150,000. Bad. I said, oh, you cut down. I'm going to have to cut you down. The next year, $700,000. $700,000. I had a bad year. I'm only giving away 70%. I'm going to give away 10%. Bad. You're down to $100,000 again. Can't rely on you. In other words, what you get is based on what you do. Okay? That's a rule. I met a guy who, I don't know if any of you guys know, they had in the 80s, the savings and loan scandal in America. There's this whole scandal with the savings and loan. And a lot of people made a lot of money quickly. So there was a guy who I knew who made a lot of money on the savings and loan. He even got called in by the FBI he was under investigation. A lot of guys went to jail. This guy did get called in by the FBI. And I once asked him how much money he made. He said, I had one real good year. He had been doing it for a few. He said, I had one real good year where I had to write a check to the United States government for 7 figures. Right? Which means that he roughly made in that 1 year $4 or $5 million. Right? And he told me that he called his father up. He said, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. I might have to leave the country. I don't know if I can write a check for 7 figures. Right? That's exactly what happens with tzedakah. You have the money, now keep giving it away. The bigger the amount gets, the harder it is to get. I mean, that's a lot of money. You know, when I got $100,000 to give away $10,000, they okay, I could do it. When you got $1 billion, you got to write a check for $200,000 in order to give a chomesh, to give that's not so easy to do. You know, your hands start shaking, even though objectively you've made more money. Okay, now, imagine the following. You're a businessman. And the boss calls you in, and you're a good salesman. You're good at what you do. And the boss says, I need you to go to Denver to negotiate a contract for us. But I need you, listen, I want you at your maximum. You're good. I need you at your maximum. So first of all, I want you to take a limousine to the airport. Okay, I don't want you in a cab. I want you in a limousine. Get the best limousine to the airport, it's a 45-minute ride. I want you getting there fresh. I want you flying first class. Get the first class ticket, and I want you staying at a 5-star hotel. So the guy goes and he carries out the thing, and he gets the contract. He comes back, okay, and then 2 weeks later, the boss is passing out paychecks in the office. He gives out paycheck gives out envelopes, and he skips over this guy. The guy figures, listen, he's waiting for me because obviously I'm going to get a good one over here. And then he calls him in. He says, hey, Rick, come here. And he says, thanks. I just want to tell you did a great job. He says, yeah, I forgot about the fee, boss. Right? Fee. I mean, you had a limousine, and you had a first class ticket, and you had what do you call it? You had what kind of fee? I mean, he says, boss, I'm not working for limousines, and I'm not working for free, and I'm working for a paycheck. Why did he give him the privilege? Why did he get, in other words, that wasn't a reward. The reward is the paycheck. The Torah is not talking about reward over here. That's what the verse said. This isn't reward. The question is, why is the reward mentioned in material terms? It's not. The answer is because it's not reward. This isn't reward. This is, if you're good, you get limousines, and you get first class hotels, and you get first class on an airplane. That's if you're good. Would you rather fly third class? Would you rather take a cab? Would you rather stay at a motel? Right? Why are you giving it? Because you've been serving me well. The Torah here is telling you, I can't tell you the reward. I'm not talking about the rewards of the world to come. But if you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu well in this world, then He's going to make things easier for you. He'll make it more pleasant in this world. So, for example, if you give a guy a ride in a car, you're a good big Baal Chesed, you have a car, and you always give people a ride in your little Fiat or whatever it's called, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're steady with this? So then an uncle calls you up and says, by the way, I've got a brand new Chevy van for you. Right? And so you start driving people around in your Chevy van. He says, hey, I like this. I like your attitude. Then another uncle calls you up and he says, I've got a couple of Chevy vans for you. And these are really nice ones, or whatever they're called, what are they called, SUVs or whatever it is. Well, my brand new SUV, I don't want people in there dirtying it up. You know, I'm not letting people into my brand new SUV. Yeah, bad. Your SUV gets stolen. Right, bad. In other words, the way we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the degree that we show an effort, a guy shows an effort to learn Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu finds you a good chavrusa, and he gives you your pardasa easily, because you're dedicated to it. You're doing what you have to do. You're kind of dragging along. I'm like, all right, you're a third-class citizen. You sit in the third class. You sit with the cattle on the airplane. You know, what do you call it? You're not going to get the benefits. The commentaries say these are not, this isn't the reward. The reward's the paycheck in the world to come. We're not talking about reward. The question is, why is the Torah talking about reward? The answer is it's not talking about reward. It's talking about the benefits of serving in this world. You show devotion to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it more pleasant and easier for you to serve. The better you serve, the more pleasant he's going to make it. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be a cakewalk. Let's not make a mistake here. It doesn't mean that everybody who learns in Kollel and everybody, they just have their parnasa just falling down out of heaven. And it doesn't mean that everybody is devoted, that doesn't run into hardships and so on and so forth. But as a principle, as a rule, to the degree that you make the effort, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees you make effort, he's going to help you out. He's going to make you will have what we call siyata d'shmaya. Yes?
So, like in Pirkei Avot, it says that the reward for the good is in the world to come. And I'm just wondering, doesn't like material ease kind of take away from our...
Oh, it's a good question. And the answer is, it depends why you're getting the material ease. If you're getting the material ease because you've earned the privilege of serving better based on your track record, then it's not. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided you deserve to have a situation. You've demonstrated loyalty, and therefore I will help you do what you want to do by making it easier. There is a concept of the wicked getting the reward in this world. The Rishonim get the reward in this world. Now, the question that everybody asks is, how could that possibly be? First of all, why doesn't the Chafetz Chaim has the example? The Chafetz Chaim gives the example of a guy who goes into to buy a kid goes in to buy a candy bar with $100 bill. The guy says, I don't have change for a $100 bill. I don't have change. I can't give you change for 5 cents. So it costs 5 cents. I don't have a change. I haven't got the change for that bill. So Chafetz Chaim says the reason we don't get rewarded in this world for a mitzvah is because there is nothing in this world that can compare to even a moment of the world to come. And since the rewards, we haven't got that currency down here. We just don't have that currency down here. So if you want to, if you say you go in with a diamond to pay for, you go in with a $20,000 diamond to pay for a book in a bookstore. I haven't got that kind of cash around because we don't have in this world. This world doesn't equal the benefits of the world to come. The currency doesn't exist. So the question becomes: so why do the wicked get their reward in this world? The answer to that is because they've declared, I want the reward in this world. I don't want that. They don't believe in it or whatever it is. This is where, you want it in your currency? Then I'll give it to you in your currency. But the person who's living for the world to come, so when he gets a benefit, the benefits are to help us. However, if you notice, take a look back for a second. Take a look back at Parshas Miketz. The brothers go down to Egypt. And if you remember the story on page 236, what does Yosef do? Yosef, when he gives them their provisions, he fills their sacks up with the grain. And then what does he tell his attendant to do? Put everybody's money back in their sack. Then they start going home. Then the Torah says that they stopped off. Take a look at Pasuk 20, 6 lines to the bottom. Vayisu, on 236, 6 lines from the bottom. Vayisu es shivram al chamorehim. They took their what do you call it, what they had purchased. Vayelchu misham. Vayiftach ha'echad esako loseis bispo lachamoro. One of them opens up his sack to give feed to the donkey. In the Vayares kaspo, he sees his money. Veineu b'fiyam tachto. The money's at the top of the sack. Vayomer alachiv hushav kaspi v'gamine b'am tachti. Vayetze libam vayecher duish alachiv lemor ma zos asa elokim lanu. What has Hashem done to us? They open up their sacks. They see the money has come back. So what has Hashem done to us? So the commentators say, okay, the plain meaning is they understand that they're being framed. They understand that they're being framed. But the commentaries say, you know what? Why are they nervous? It's a lesson to us. Sometimes a person opens up the sack and finds money. And also, wow, something went really well for a person. Also, wow, we got a real good business deal. Or an uncle died and left him a pile, right? Or he found money on his feet or won the lottery. Person always has to be concerned, exactly what you're asking. Was that to benefit me because I give a lot of tzedakah, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to make it easy for me? Or is that because I'm getting my reward in this world and I'm not going to get it in the world to come? Is that in place of the world to come? That's something that we have no way of knowing. You could generally sense it. person could sense, I haven't done anything wrong, I'm trying to be a good Jew, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it a little easier for me. I go to yeshiva every day, and therefore all of a sudden HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my uncle gave me a car, because since I go to learn Torah every day, so now instead of having to ride buses and suffer indignities from Arab bus drivers, so he gave me a car, or so that I could drive to Kollel every day. Okay, that could very well be. I've earned it. I've earned the making my life easier since I've shown my devotion. That's what we're saying. And therefore, the commentaries say this is not the reward. This is the benefit that you have, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you've earned the benefit to make it easier. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Hey. You see a very interesting principle in human nature here. So it says like this. The Torah says, V'hisig lachem, this is a very important concept. V'hisig lachem daish es botzir. How does he translate it? Your threshing will last until the vintage. I don't know what either of them is. Uv botzir yosig es zora. That means you're going to have so much abundance when you're a farmer and you have your grain is stored in your silo from the last harvest. You won't even finish that, and it's the time for the next harvest. Your problem in life is you have too much. You got abundance. There's such abundance you don't even know what to do with it. Sometimes did it ever happen to you? You open up your freezer at home and there's no room in this freezer. Right? There are a lot of people who wish they had that problem. It's like saying, you got a stack of cash. There's no room in my wallet. Those are problems we dive in for. I actually read an article once. There was a guy named Mike Royko. Did you ever hear of Mike Royko? He was a great comment writer. He wrote for the Chicago Tribune. It's a classic. And he used to talk to politicians and all these people. He had access to all sorts of people. So he was talking, he said he met a guy at a party or something, and the guy's a nervous wreck. Why? Because this guy works in the Chicago, what's it called, where they test cars, where they were car testing to get your license. The Chicago driving facility. What's it called?
Department of Motor Vehicles.
Your Department of Motor Vehicles. Okay, so Department of Motor Vehicles is in Chicago. DMV is the same gematria as bribery, right? Because in Chicago, it was well known that when you went to take your driver's test, the first thing you do is you put if you didn't pass the first time, you put a $20 bill in the glove compartment in the ashtray the second time, right? And then suddenly you got your license. Right, that was how you got a license. I told you, in Chicago, an honest policeman was one who stayed bought after you bribed him. That was an honest cop. So it was known that if you didn't get your thing. When I drove, I used to keep a $20. I had my license here, and I kept a $20 bill in the billfold. And if the driver would ever say, if the cop would ever stop me and say license and registration, you just give it to him, give him your license. And then either you get it back with the $20 bill or without the $20 bill. And then everybody of Sholem Al Yisrael, they're good. I never got stopped, but I never got stopped for moving violation. But what do you call it? Once I did, my light was out. But other than that, that was okay. To get your license in Chicago, it was known that you bribed them. This guy spoke to Mike Royko at a party. He said, I'm a nervous wreck. I said, what's the problem? He said, I'm working as a young guy. The guy was like 25, 26. He works at what's it called, DMV? He works at the DMV. Money is piling in. He's got hundreds of thousands of dollars liquid in his house, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He can't put it into a bank account because people are going to start asking him questions. So he puts it under his mattress and over here, and he's a nervous wreck. He's having a breakdown. He's losing his hair from nervousness because he's got too much cash around. I remember thinking, oh, gee, I should have such troubles. My hair can't fall out anymore, right? So I should have the cash. That's your biggest problem. You understand? So that's what Hashem say. You're going to have so much, you're not going to know what to do with it. You're not going to know what to do with it. V'achaltem lach lachem l'soved. You'll eat your bread to satiation. V'yashavtem lebetoch b'artzachem. I want you to look at Rashi. Rashi says, it's the right column of Rashi, 6 lines from the bottom. V'achaltem lach lachem l'sova. I want you to there's a very important concept here. One of the most, a fundamental concept in human nature. V'achaltem lach lachem l'sova, says Rashi. If you found it, please show the person next to you. Ochel kim'ah, a person will eat a little bit. V'hu misbarech b'meyav. And the little bit he'll have blessing in his belly. You won't even need a lot. You won't even need a lot. You'll be able to eat and you'll be satiated by a little bit. That's a tremendous bracha. You won't have to waste time at the table. You'll be able to go back to your learning and doing chesed and all that. Most of us don't even want that. Why? What do you mean? I want to eat. I enjoy eating. Okay, for somebody who is looking for that sort of bracha, you'll eat a little bit, and you'll have blessing in your belly. If that's the case, that begs a question. What's the question? Obvious question based on this pasuk from the beginning of the pasuk.
What are we going to do with all the grain?
What do you need all the grain for? If a little bit is going to give you a blessing, so what do you need all the grain for? Right? What do you need all the grain for if a little bit gives you a blessing? Okay, that's a good question, isn't it? That's like Kosh give you a little bit of grain and you'll have blessing. The answer is the Torah is teaching you something about natural human nature here. Why is a little bit going to satisfy you? Why is a little bit going to satisfy you? Because you've got plenty in your granary. And the Gemara says, Eino dome, you can't compare somebody who has pas bisalo, he's got bread in his basket, to somebody who doesn't have bread in his basket. The Gemara says a poor man is never satiated. A man who doesn't know when his next meal is coming from, he could eat much more, he could out-eat you, he'll eat you under the table. Why? Because when you don't know when your next meal is coming from, part of being satiated is knowing that it's available. And once it's available, you don't even need it. So there's a concept of pas bisalo. It's a concept in human nature. As soon as something becomes available, the desire is curbed. Somebody once said they found a food that cures you of romance. There's a food that takes away romance. It's called wedding cake. It's a fascinating, it's an unbelievable thing. As soon as something becomes available to you, so the fact that you know it's available, so Warren Buffett does not have a newspaper delivered to his house. Do you know that? He walks every morning to buy the paper. Because Warren Buffett says, why should it's a waste of money to pay to have the paper delivered to your home? That's what Warren Buffett does. Now Warren Buffett could afford it. Warren Buffett could afford to buy out the entire newspaper. Right? That's why Warren Buffett could do it. Because when you know that you don't have to, then it's fun. For the shtick, I'll make a point. I'll walk for the newspaper every day instead of having to deliver it. But when you're walking for the newspaper because you really can't afford, you're really trying to cut back on your budget because you just got laid off of your job and you can't even, you got to save nickels and dimes, then it's not so much fun. But when it's pas bisalo, when it's available to you, then a person doesn't even need it. And so a person has to know the same guy who could have Warren Buffett lives in a regular house. Well, when he could buy the town, so then it's fun to make a point by living in your regular house, knowing that you could stay in a hotel or anywhere you could buy everybody out. That's what the Torah is saying over here. There's a concept called pas bisalo. Why is it that on Erev Yom Kippur, after you drink, everybody going into Yom Kippur, you drink, everybody's got the certain amount, the magic number of cups you drink that you won't be thirsty on Yom Kippur. Either 3 cups of water, 7 cups of water, 613 cups of water. Everybody's got their magic number. And then as soon as 10 minutes into Yom Kippur, what happens?
Thirsty.
It's going to be a dry one this year. Yeah? Notice every year is a dry one? And then you wake up Yom Kippur morning, you're a guy who skips breakfast every day of your life. Yom Kippur morning, you wake up. I don't know. They might have to call Hatzalah. You're starving, right? And is it right? And then what's the first thought? Is you get right towards the end. They blow the shofar at the end of Yom Kippur. Right? An hour before Yom Kippur ends, you're thinking about what's it going to be. A hot fudge sundae, or 6 slices of pizza wedged into one, so you get right. And then you're already thinking about that, an hour before you go. And as soon as they blow the last shofar, it's like, I could probably fast tomorrow if I really wanted to. Right? Nobody does. Everybody goes for the 6 slice pizza wedge, right? But I could probably fast tomorrow if I really wanted to. So why? What happened? It's pas bisalo. Now you know you could eat. You're not even as hungry. And as soon as you're told you can't, then you're thirsty. Isn't that an amazing thing? Isn't it amazing? This is human nature. That's what the Torah is telling you. You know why a little bit satiates you? Because you've got a storage house full. When knowing that it's available anytime you want, so then you don't have the need. It's a very important insight into human nature. Okay. Take a look at Pasuk Vav. V'nasati shalom ba'aretz. There is going to be peace in the land. Ushchavtem, you lie down, vein machri, nothing's going to scare you. Vishbati chaya ra, so no wild animals. V'cherev lo savor ba'artzachem. No sword will pass through your land. Now, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says it's 2 lines from the bottom. V'cherev lo savor ba'artzachem, ein tzarich lomar shelo yovo lo melchama. No need to say that they won't come to attack you to war. That obviously not. Ela afilu lavor derech artzachem medina le medina. Even to pass through your land to go attack somebody else. There are no swords follow through here. No armies are going to go marching through your land. Why is that a bracha? What do I care if there are armies marching through my land? And not only that, some of the commentaries say that your land doesn't just mean Eretz Yisrael. V'cherev lo savor ba'artzachem, there's not going to be war anywhere in the world. Why is that a promise for us? Because when there is war, we're in trouble. Right? Anytime there's war, the Jews somehow, who's blamed for the Russians invading the Ukraine? The Jews, right? How? Don't ask, right? Who's blamed for a Muslim lady who's being buried and the Muslims go berserk at the funeral? Who's blamed? The Jews, right? When there's a war in the world, any type of unrest is not good for us. It's not good for the Jews. It's good for everybody to be busy and occupied. It's not good for the Jews when people are fighting. Because somehow, when the Red Army, I don't know, when the Russian Revolution, the Reds against the Whites, the Red Army and the White Army, and who got caught in the middle? The Jews, right? That's always the way it is. And therefore, they said at the time of the Russian Revolution, every country has their sport. In America, it's baseball. In England, it's soccer. In Russia, it's revolutions, right? That's the national sport. And when the Jews, by the way, there was the English national soccer team was defeated by the German national soccer team in the World Cup. They beat them twice, I think twice running. So the German prime minister or president, or whatever it's called in Germany, met the English prime minister, I forgot who it was. He said, well, that's twice that we've beaten you at your national sport, because soccer is a national sport of England. He said, that's twice we've beaten you at your national sport. And the guy said to the German, yes, and we've beaten you at your national sport twice also. Right? So whatever, war is never a good thing. War is never a good thing for the Jews. Now, one of the commentaries points out, why does it say, V'nasati shalom ba'aretz? It says v'nasati shalom in pasuk vav. In pasuk hey, it says v'yeshavtem levetach ba'artzachem. It says you'll dwell in security in your land. Then the next one says, and I will give peace in your land. Well, if you're dwelling in security, there's peace. So one of them before says v'nasati shalom ba'aretz. Says yes, you'll dwell in security from your enemies. V'nasati shalom ba'aretz among Jews. The Jews will be at peace. Now, the people say Jews are always fighting. That's not true. Jews aren't fighting. Jews are arguing. There's a very big difference. Jews aren't fighting. Jews rarely get physical with each other. But Jews are always bickering with each other. That, yes. Jews, there tends to be a lot of different opinions. Right? My brother told me there was an incident too. In Israel, what happens if there's ever an argument on the street? You never see a fist. 2 cab drivers start yelling at each other because somebody took a guy's parking space. So they yell at each other. Well, then they get into guys, they invite them over for Kiddush on Shabbos. He says, that's usually how it ends. So my brother told me these two cars got into a fight, two cab drivers got into a fight, and they started yelling at each other. And one of them pulled a gun on the other one. The guy the other guy, Reuven pulled a gun on Shimon. Shimon got so upset that he pulled a gun on him. He walked over, he grabbed the gun, he just took it away. Why was he upset? He says, we both know you're not going to shoot me. We both know you're not going to shoot me. So you're pulling a gun, you're insulting me by pulling a gun on me. You're making me like as if I'm afraid. We both know you're not going to shoot me. That's when he got really upset. Because Jews don't hit and Jews don't fight. If you pick up your fist, the Torah says you're a Russia just for picking up your fist to threaten somebody. You're Russia. But there's, unfortunately, a lot of bickering. Right? The Nasati Shalom Ba'aretz, Jews won't fight with each other. And then one of the commentaries say, what's the key to not fighting? Hashem says about himself, V'nasati Shalom Ba'aretz. What is the word V'nasati? How do you translate the word V'nasati? Give. Right? The Kodesh Baruch Hu say, you want peace? Watch how Kodesh Baruch Hu. How does the Kodesh Baruch Hu bring peace in the world? V'nasati. Right? I give peace in the world. You want to be at peace with people, you got to learn to give. You gotta learn to give. As soon as you concern the nature of human nature, as soon as you think about yourself, that's when the fighting starts. A lot of guys think marriage, there are two critical factors in marriage. A lot of people think there are two critical factors. She has to give to me, and Hashem has to get her to give to me. Right? Those are the two critical factors. It's a mistake. There's only one factor in marriage. If you're a male, you want a successful marriage, forget about her. Forget about her. I don't mean that the way it sounds, by the way. Right? Forget about her obligations. Think about, I have to be willing to give to her. That's all it's about. 99% of the responsibility of marriage is on the husband. I hope my wife's not watching this. Right? 99% of the responsibility of marriage, and it's the other 1% also. Like somebody once said, men come. She said this. You can't have two women in the house. You want two women in the house? Be enough that there's one, right? You want to be her also? You have to what they say, man up and take the responsibility. And the rule is, this is not a joke. You treat her well, she'll treat you well. If you treat her well, she'll treat you well. That's the simplest rule in marriage. Why? Because women by nature are givers. They're think about other people and they're selfless. Men are takers. So often the man's attitude is, well, if she's giving, I'll take. And if she's giving, I'll take some more. Right? That's where the trouble starts. Right? A woman, if you give to her, she will reciprocate. By nature, there are exceptions, and she has her days, and she has her moods. But in general, if you give to her, she will reciprocate. Men don't naturally reciprocate, and they naturally take. You give me a little bit, I'll take some more. That's how men behave. And therefore, a husband has to be focused on giving. If you focus on giving, v'nasati shalom bar, then you'll have peace. Then you'll have shalom bayis. But it's all because of you. When there's trouble in marriage, our attitude is, I don't care what the man says about his wife, it started with him. Yeah, because she does this and she does that and she does the other. Yeah, but it starts with the husband. And if your wife is unhappy, it means the husband's not treating her properly. Take a look at Pasuk Ches. Now here's a big question. The commentary asks like this. One of the brachas is, V'rodfu bikem chamisha mea. When we're doing well, 5 will chase 100 of the enemies. Umeya mikem, and 100 of you, rivava yirdofu, will chase 10,000. And by the way, this just shows you, if you stop and think, imagine reading this 1,000 years ago. How could you ever have a situation of 5 people chasing 1,000? How could you possibly? You got a bow and arrow, you got better bows and arrows. All they got to turn around is, you got 1,000 people turn around and spit on you and they can bury you. They can throw sand on you. How can you possibly have such a thing? And all of a sudden, in our day and age, we have no problem understanding that. One guy with a machine gun could chase 1,000 people. They just had a shooting in the United States. I don't know if any of you know. Where a guy in Buffalo, New York, went in and shot up a shopping center, killed 11 people. A teenager, 18-year-old teenager, dressed in military. What do you call it? With a bulletproof vest. He was dressed. This guy was really. I hate to use it. He was dressed to kill. Right? He went in there, and not only that, the security. He killed 2 people in the parking lot. Went into the supermarket. The security guard shot him. But he hit him in the bulletproof vest. The guy turned around and he killed the security guard. And he killed another 8 or 9 people. Right? He was playing for keeps. So we understand how one person with a gun could chase 100 people, no problem. Rashi says, you got a problem here. Take a look. Rashi says in Pasuk, it's the left column, second line. 5 will chase 100, and 100 will chase 10,000. So Rashi says, V'chikachu hacheshbon? Is that the ratio? If 5 chase 100, so how many would 100 chase? By that ratio. If it's 5 to 100, so 100 chases how many? 2,000. Yet the Torah says 100 chase 10,000. So what happened to the ratio? Says Rashi, you can't compare when there are few people fulfilling the Torah to many people fulfilling the Torah. That means that there's the merit of the community. And as the community grows, the merit grows out of proportion. That's what Rashi says. But I saw a brilliant explanation. One of the commentaries. How do you reconcile the fact that the ratio has been broken? So one of the commentaries is right there in the pasuk. The pasuk says it openly. Why? Because look at the pasuk. Let's read the pasuk again. V'radfu mikem chamisha mea. 5 of you will chase 100. Umea mikem, and 100 of you units of 5, which is now how much? 500. Rivava Yerdofa will chase 10,000. Then the ratio is exact. 5 will chase 100, and 100 of you 5s will chase 10,000. Then the ratio is exact. Then the ratio works out perfectly in the plain meaning of the pasuk. But Rashi is telling you beyond that. Rashi is telling you that it doesn't have to work out, because the degree that the Jews increase in numbers, the degree that we increase in numbers, is the degree that the merit, when you have the community is doing it, then the merit of the community is stronger. All right, see you tomorrow.